You think you know Apple? Clean, minimal, beautiful, every product a masterpiece, right? But deep inside Apple's vault are the rejects, the ghosts of ideas that could have rewritten tech history. Some too weird, some too risky, and some that almost shipped before being dropped like a hot potato. So let's talk about canceled Apple products you didn't know about. Our story starts in 1990. Picture Apple's design lab, CRT screens humming, beige plastic everywhere. But in a back corner sought something different, a Macintosh classic that was completely transparent. You could see everything, the motherboard, the fan, even the faint glow of the power supply at night. It was Apple's first flirt with transparency, decades before their endeavors in liquid glass. They called it a design study, testing how people emotionally reacted to visible technology. Some employees found it mesmerizing. Others said it looked like a toaster full of wires. The problem? That beautiful plastic scratched, yellowed, and cost 20% more than beige. So Apple shelved it. The world wasn't ready. But ever wonder why the first iMac was see-through? It's a blessing from the ancestors. Fast forward a few years. Apple's in chaos. Sales are tanking, leadership's spinning. And out of that confusion came one of the strangest creations in the company's history, the Apple Paladin. Imagine this, a beige box the size of a microwave that's also a fax machine, a scanner, a phone, and a computer. That's basically like the half of all electrical devices that existed back then. It had buttons for fax, call, compute. You could literally be faxing a document while on a phone call, and the thing would make it possible. It was Apple's attempt to simplify the desk, one box to rule them all. But I'm sure most have heard the line, when you speak to everyone, you end up speak to no one. And that's exactly what happened to the Apple Paladin. With Steve Jobs returned in 1997, he reportedly looked at the prototype and called it a bloated mess. Rumor has it he smashed one in front of the team. That was the day Paladin died, and the age of the iMac was born. Now, what if I told you Apple built an iPad, and no, I'm not talking about the one launched in 2010, this one was scheduled to release 15 years before the iPad existed. What was it? For that, we'll have to go to 1993, when Apple's engineers were obsessed with the Newton Message Pad, the world's first PDA. Basically, they scaled up a phone to the size of a full sheet of paper, a giant tablet with a stylus, predictive text, and even email syncing. It was pitched as a digital desk, a dream for offices that hated paper. The idea was indeed way ahead of its time, but the tech wasn't. The handwriting recognition was terrible. The Simpsons even mocked it. So this monster-sized Newton was doomed from the start. Later, when Apple axed the Newton division in 1997, the oversized version vanished too. But its spiritual successor returned in 2010, as the iPad. I mean, sometimes innovation just needs time to mature. By the way, if you're enjoying this hidden side of tech, hit that subscribe button for more stories like this. So, do you remember the iPod? If you don't, I don't blame you, it's old news. But yes, there was almost an iPod phone. Yeah, before the iPhone, Apple actually built a phone with a click wheel dialer. You'd spin through menus like how you would scroll today through the Rabbit R1 or something. And yes, it could text too, though typing Apple's classic hello would take you about 20 seconds. Basically, Tony Fadell's team spent over a year trying to make the iPod phone practical, before Jobs walked in and asked, why not just make a touchscreen instead? That single question changed everything. The iPod phone was buried, but its DNA lived on in the first iPhone. Meanwhile, Apple had another idea brewing, a Mac Mini that doubled as an iPod dock. You'd slot your iPod Nano into a perfect top cutout, it would sync instantly, and charge right there on your desk. It was clever, a halo device designed to make Mac users out of iPod owners. But every time a new iPod came out, the dock hole no longer fit. Dust piled in, docks broke, and Jobs hated how it looked. He killed it with a single word: gimmicky. That decision might have saved Apple's hatred towards moving parts. Now jump to 2010, iPhone 4 just launched. But deep inside Apple's roadmap was a secret project, the iPhone Nano. It was tiny, around 2.5 inches, with an A4 chip and full iOS inside. Jobs' leaked emails even confirmed it. "We are doing phone Nano." It was meant to take over budget markets of South Asia, everywhere Android was booming. But then, Jobs passed away in 2011, and the new leadership, i.e. Tim Cook, scrapped it. Margins were too thin, screens too small, and the company decided to stay premium. The iPhone SE years later would fill that hole, at least partially, but the Nano could have made iPhones truly global years earlier. It's wild to think a $150 iPhone almost existed. Around the same time, Apple was also testing another weird hybrid, an iPhone with a full slide-out keyboard. It looked like as if a BlackBerry and an iPhone had a baby, an aluminum build, multi-touch screen, and a curved chiclet keyboard hidden underneath. Engineers built several working units, but when Apple compared it side by side with a normal iPhone, something felt wrong. It was thicker, heavier, and just unlike Apple. So Jobs' obsession with thinness won. Virtual keyboards got better, and the slider quietly disappeared. But imagine an alternate timeline where iPhones still had keys. Now let's skip ahead to 2017. Apple unveils something magical, AirPower, a wireless pad that could charge your iPhone, watch, and AirPods anywhere you placed them. No alignment, no cables, just drop and charge. The crowd went wild. And then silence from Apple's side. Months passed, then years. Finally, Apple admitted, AirPower didn't meet our high standards. Translation? It overheated so badly it could melt plastic. Millions spent, prototypes cooked, literally. That's Apple's version of a product recall before it even launched. And finally, the biggest ghost of all, the Apple Car. 10 years, $10 billion, 5,000 engineers. And yet, not a single wheel ever hit the road. Codenamed Project Titan, it was meant to be the Tesla killer, a self-driving pod with no steering wheel, no pedals, and an AR windshield that displayed your world and data. They tested everything: BMWs with Apple sensors, LiDAR arrays, even autonomous lounges with bidirectional charging. It was going to launch in 2025, until Apple pulled the plug in 2024. Why? Autonomy wasn't ready. The EV market crashed, and Apple quietly reassigned 2,000 people to AI projects instead. A $10 billion dream? Gone. But maybe it's not over. Apple rarely kills an idea forever. Most times, they just wait for the perfect time to introduce their version of a thing. Okay, if you liked peeking into Apple's secret vault, you'll love what happened when they didn't cancel an idea, the iPhone. Click on the video on your screen right now to watch how the iPhone rules America. And while you're there, hit subscribe to Kernel.